For being with him for so many years, it's amazing to see a kid from a man to a grown man.
As they were going to announce this fight initially, DV allegations dropped. Tank was arrested and it was once again put in doubt.
Before the fight was cancelled on Monday after a civil lawsuit filed by ex-girlfriend Courtney Rozelle accused Davis of battery and aggravated battery.
When Calvin Ford hears that Gervonta Davis has been arrested, he starts to cry on Liv. I watch Hank grow into a man, he says as he thinks about their long trip together from the streets to the championship. Ford's voice shakes as he talks about how painful it is to see everything fall apart. He can't handle his feelings as he sees that their once unstoppable path has come to a heartbreaking end.
Man, it's crazy. That's why I said, yeah, you can't write this, man. You cannot write this. My experience being gone and all the stuff that I went through preparing me for where I'm at today. You know, man, Tank is older. He had the lessons, getting his lessons of what he got to do, take us the rest of the way. And this is his take us the rest of the way.
A lot of problems have come up with Gervonta Davis over the course of his career. In the beginning of this year, the mother of his children accused him of mistreatment, but the case was later dropped. Soon after, another woman sued him in a different case, which made the fighter even more well-known and controversial. Even though the first case was thrown out, these recent legal problems have hurt his image and gotten a lot of attention. People have pointed out that personal problems often affect more than one's private life. This is especially true for famous players like Gervonta Davis. Even if someone is very good at boxing, they can still be criticized by the public or get into legal trouble. Legal or personal scandals can quickly get all the media's attention, which can hurt a person's reputation and job prospects. Fans, analysts, and people in the boxing community often judge athletes not only on how well they do, but also on how they act, which means that everything they do is open to scrutiny. Davis thinks this shows that an athlete's accomplishments alone can't protect them from the effects of public and legal exposure. This shows how hard it is to keep your personal and professional ethics.
Rematch never happened. The Paul camps still thought Tank is a big enough name regardless of his previous result to go ahead with this bout. But just as they were going to announce this fight initially, DV allegations dropped. Tank was arrested and it was once again put in doubt. Then the charges were dropped. A week later, they announced the event. So that kind of brings us to today. This event hasn't been smooth sailing so far, and it was almost destined that there would end up being a few more bumps in the road before we actually saw the two facing off. And about as big of a bump as you could really get has now hit the promotion. A civil suit has been filed against Tank, in which his ex-girlfriend accuses him of aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. While it was also reported by ESPN that a report has been filed additionally with the Miami Gardens Police Department last Tuesday. However, as I'm recording this, there's yet to be any criminal charges. Now, these alleged incidents happened last month, which was after the announcement of the fight. You would think if you're Tank on the verge of the biggest payday he's ever gotten, he would be doing anything to stay out of trouble, yet he continues to find himself in negative situations again and again. But in saying all of this, everything at the moment is very much alleged, and I'm not really here to talk about the validity of these claims. What I am here to talk about though is the impact this might have on the boxing event in a couple weeks time. Now, Tank vs Paul, love or hate the idea of it, was destined one of the most viewed fights of the year. Although there are rumors of there being poor ticket sales, the at-home audience that was gonna watch this.
Roe Jones Jr. said that Gervonta Davis has been having a hard time for a while now, and that the case only makes things worse for him. He said that these difficulties happening at the same time as the planned fight with Jake Paul had made things extra stressful for the young champion. Jones says that Davis's problems in the past were known to the boxing community, so the situation wasn't a surprise, but was still shocking. He also said that the cancellation of the fight has made Davis's personal problems worse, because he now has to deal with both public scrutiny and sadness over missing a big chance.
This Jake Paul didn't work out. Just what were your thoughts on that whole thing?
Man, I really don't want to even have much to say about that because everybody take it the bad way. But all I'm gonna say is this: Jake Paul knew what it was when he first signed the fight. This ain't the first time he had battered against a woman. You knew what it was when you first signed the fight. So don't get mad and cuss him out and talk bad about him now. You knew what it was when you signed up for it. Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Let's not do that. I don't talk bad about him either, but don't do the dude like that. No, the dude having a hard time in his life right now. Don't just do him like that. You know what I mean? Because you knew exactly what he was when you signed him to fight the first time. All I got to say.
Tank's team has kind of been bringing that, like, talking about just some of Jake's past, and more kind of said that Jake said he's actually afraid to fight Tank. I mean, do you think it leaned a little more on that side, and they're just selling it the other way?
I already know what it is. Like I said, I already know. I'll get into it, but we all know young guys go through issues. That's just life.
Jake Paul talked about how he saw something that happened with Gervonta Davis. Paul says Davis was completely sober and aware of what he was doing at the time of the event. He said things that made it sound like there was no attempt to avoid blame by saying they were drunk. While Paul's version focuses on how he sees the events, Davis is shown to be responsible and aware in his version, which also shows the stresses a fighter is under behind the scenes. By talking about this in public, Paul seems to be giving friends and other people an inside look at Davis's mental state. It is important to note, though, that these claims are only personal and not backed up by evidence. Paul's comments may add to rumors or speculation, but they also show how closely famous fighters like Davis or Wash, as everything they do can be studied and shared with a lot of people. Overall, his comments show how difficult it is for professional boxers to deal with both personal problems and how the public sees them.
Was on Aiden Ross, and he shared a story about Jake Paul, about Gervonta, and he said, look, Aiden, it was 4:15 in the morning. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. Gervonta Davis was sober. He got sober into a car and drove out there at that hour to do this. This guy is extra bad. Let me repeat that. Let me repeat that. Jake Paul said that Gervonta Davis left his house sober and went to Tootsie's nightclub sober. I just want you to put your common sense hat on. How in the world would he know that? Does Jake Paul talk to Gervonta Davis? Did Gervonta Davis tell Jake Paul I was sober when I left the house? Did Jake Paul have a camera in Gervonta Davis's car? Did he have a breathalyzer in Gervonta Davis's car? Did Jake Paul get toxicology reports from 3 days ago from Gervonta Davis? I am just curious as to how in the world Jake could possibly know that Gervonta Davis was sober. Let me tell you for sure, I will have a drink now and then. If I take a couple shots of vodka and I walk out the house, I'm a little buzzed. Sometimes my wife doesn't even know. How do you know, Jake? The answer is you do not. You are just trying to add something to the story to make Gervonta look worse. It wasn't enough that Gervonta Davis was accused of doing so.
Coach Kenny gave a detailed account of Gervonta Davis's journey, focusing on the difficulties that come with getting to the top of professional boxing. He said that every top fighter has to deal with a lot of stress, attention, and problems both inside and outside the field. Kenny says that these problems are not signs of failure, but normal parts of the trip for athletes to do their best. He said that even if Davis has short-term problems like legal issues or public scandals, they don't take away from the many hours of training, focus, and dedication he has shown over the years. Kenny's insight makes the point that getting to the top of your game is rarely a smooth process. There have been wins and losses that have changed it. He told everyone that hard times are often tests of character that need strength and focus to get through. These problems may slow down a fighter's progress or public image for a short time, but they don't change the skill and hard work that made them famous in the first place. In Davis's case, Kenny's reflection shows that persistence, a consistent work ethic, and drive are still important parts of his journey, even though he is currently facing some problems.
This hype that becomes a love and hate with this sport, when you're in it, right?
I think fighters have always loved this sport itself. It's the bullshit that comes with it behind the scenes, you know, dishonesty and shit like that. That shit get on my nerve.
Yeah.
Not saying that's what Tank's situation is, just a sport, period. I'm speaking on the sport, man. If people would be honest and jokers really take fights like they said they would, but behind the scene they not taking the fight, but on social media they gonna take the fight. It's a bunch of bullshit, man. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the shit that I don't like about the sport. And the promoters need to come together, man, and let the guys fight. Problem is, you need a fighter to carry each promotional company. The promotional company don't want to put their man in there with no real fighters, but their company gonna flop. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they won't let. That's why the big fights ain't having it. Fighters can take a loss and still and keep on taking it. All this new generation shit is crazy. I've seen guys with 10 losses win.
Because of the legal issues, Jake Paul officially called off the practice match against Davis. Paul's letter says that Davis seemed bored and disinterested in the fight, showing signs of anger and lack of focus. Paul said that some of these behaviors were throwing tantrums and not doing much to help with the planning process. The cancellation showed how the lawsuit affected Davis's work obligations, showing that personal problems can have a direct effect on job prospects. Some people have said that the situation shows how hard it is for players to balance their personal lives with their work responsibilities, as getting sidetracked can quickly cost you chances in big events.
You know, I don't know if it's true what they said. I just know that they were saying he was showing up late to promo shoots and he was, you know, just being a diva, just being a difficult person to work with. And the thing I always tell anybody, I don't care what age you are, whenever you're working with somebody, when you're on a set, you know, when you're in a corporation, whatever it is, the thing that will keep money in your pocket and always keep you working is when those individuals say that person is a pleasure to work with. When they say you're a pleasure to work with, I promise you, you will always get phone calls. That's why I walk in the room. It's just my nature anyway, because, you know, just the way my anxiety's set up, I need to know who's who. So I speak to everybody. I look in everybody's eyes. I'm really observing to make sure I don't see anything bulging in any places where there might be pistols or anything else. But I'm saying hi to everyone. I speak to everybody in the room. I speak to everybody when I leave. I'm polite because I used to sell crack and work at Taco Bell, and I understand how much of a blessing it is to be in these positions. There's no way that I'm going to be, you know, getting tens of millions of dollars like Gervonta Davis is and be acting like a diva. And I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying if the rumors are true, you know what I mean? If the rumors are true, because that's what I was told. And you know, I heard they were just looking for a reason to part ways. So,
I mean, that's a good reason. I think he has a good point too. It's just like, you know, he built his platform a lot, or Jake, on female fighters.
Absolutely.
So maybe he should support Gervonta because he supports the beating of women.
Yeah, but not by other genders.
I got it.
And also, too, maybe Tank isn't used to
Nobody has paid people more money to beat women than Jake Paul.
Former boxer Paulie Malignaggi didn't like Jake Paul's approach. He said that Davis's problems were well known in the boxing world. In fact, Davis's past actions have been known to the public for years. But Malignaggi said Paul acted like these things were just revealed. He used several examples and video proof to show that questionable behavior had happened, making it clear that both fans and professionals already knew about it. This criticism supports the idea that Davis's image has been growing over time and that anyone negotiating or working with him should have known that problems could arise.
It's, I don't know, it's like damn if you do, damn if you don't. He had already had this history. He's trying to be better. And this is something that had already happened in the past, right? I mean, this was already known when they signed.
Yeah, he wasn't arrested.
He did this prior to this being signed, so you already knew this happened. It was regurgitated as a civil suit, right, but it was already something that everybody knew had happened in the past. So it's not like something new happened after he signed the fight. So that's what I don't understand, and that's why I don't want to see that. You know, I don't want to see that the kids still lose out on it that way for that reason. Because I don't know, to me it doesn't add up. You know, it already happened, you knew it happened, then you made the fight anyway. So now, based on something you already knew happened, now you're just saying, oh no, because this happened, we're not going to do the fight. But you knew already in the first place.
Yes, the history was already there.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And for this particular situation, by the way, mind you, The girl now is coming with a civil suit. Yes, you probably saw that he signed the Jake Paul fight, and the Jake Paul exhibition. Now he's gonna make more money. They don't let's sue him. You Momo, you should have let him get the payday first if that was what you were after, at least in the first place. Because yeah, he's made money in the past, but he's not gonna get that payday now. Obviously, the reason you set those there's obviously a reason why the civil suit comes now of all time. His name's in the headlines for the Jake Paul fight. So this Momo thinks that the money's already in the bank. It's not in the bank until you do the show, and now the show's off. So if that's what you were after, you cut your own possible winnings and fractionalize them.
Right, and what we're looking at now is, it looks like Netflix has moved on. They want a different opponent. The problem is, Paulie, and we have a list, of course, boxing scene today, Lance Pugmire doing a list of possible replacements. Paulie, before we get into the actual names, what kind of person would take this fight? They're saying it would be delayed maybe to December, but this idea that, are you already in shape? Is it a fighter who's not in shape right now? Is it someone getting ready for a fight? But you want him beatable, but not going to embarrass Jake Paul?
But sellable enough, marketable enough. Listen, Jake is very good at, I always say, Jake doesn't set up fights, but he stacks the deck. There's a difference. You can't blame Jake for, personally, me, and everybody thinks these fights are set up. I've never thought they were set up. The way I read the situation is the deck is stacked enough where Jake hedges himself and he's able to win. This is an exhibition, so you don't have to do that. I mean, granted, maybe the replacement becomes a real fight. I don't know. That's something to consider. Maybe this becomes more interesting if it's a real fight. If it's a guy he gets and it's a real fight, I guess, well, that remains to be determined.
On the Ariel Helwani show, commentators talked about how Davis's new lawsuit has had a big effect on his public image. Analysts noticed that the new court issue came up only 2 months after another case, which could mean that people are having a lot of personal problems. A group of people talked about how these repeated incidents hurt Davis's personal and professional relationships in the long run. They said that these kinds of situations make people feel unstable, which shows that professional athletes need to control how they act both inside and outside the ring. The discussion came to the conclusion that repeated problems can slow down a fighter's career and hurt their image.
Fight Gervonta "Tank" Davis on November 14th in an exhibition bout at the Kaseya Center in Miami before the fight was canceled on Monday after a civil lawsuit filed by ex-girlfriend Courtney Rozelle accused Davis of battery and aggravated battery, among other things. Had the fight happened, Davis would have been the 7th person on Paul's list of 12 desired opponents, a list that also included Conor McGregor, KSI, Canelo Alvarez, Kamaru Usman, and Paul's older brother Logan. I forgot that Usman was on the fucking list, dude. I forgot that he was like, yeah, let me get a piece of Kamaru Usman in boxing. Oh, okay. To date, he has fought Anisan Gibb, Robinson, Askren, Tyron Woodley twice, Nate Diaz, and Tommy Fury from the list. Paul has also had victories over former UFC fighters Anderson Silva, Mike Perry, and boxers like Andre August, Ryan Borland, Mike Tyson, and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. With the Davis fight off, most of the names on the list crossed off, it's time for a new set of goals for Paul. So here's the new hit list. Oh God, I see number 1. One that Paul says will keep me busy for a few years.
On the Ariel Helwani show, commentators talked about how Davis's new lawsuit has had a big effect on his public image. Analysts noticed that the new court issue came up only 2 months after another case, which could mean that people are having a lot of personal problems. A group of people talked about how these repeated incidents hurt Davis's personal and professional relationships in the long run. They said that these kinds of situations make people feel unstable, which shows that professional athletes need to control how they act both inside and outside the ring. The discussion came to the conclusion that repeated problems can slow down a fighter's career and hurt their image.
Battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Lawsuit comes 2 months after Davis's previous domestic violence case was dropped by a different ex-girlfriend and the mother of 2 of the boxer's 3 children. I just think MVP is in the business of being the home of women. Right? At this point, like, that's a huge part of their identity. What is their identity? It's Jake Paul and women's boxing. That's their identity right now. And they've done a phenomenal job for the women. And so how, with these allegations lingering and now coming to light 2 weeks before, how can you go through with it? And it sounds like they feel the same way.